Hello Final Fantasy fans, and welcome back to another video. This week we're going to be doing something really spicy and talking about the best fire cards in Final Fantasy TCG currently. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is just going to be some crazy list, most played cards, whatever it might be, but I really want to stress, we talked to Rice, Okimoto, quite a few people got kind of a collective agreement on this. There's some cards that I wanted to see on here that didn't make the cut. Okimoto, Rice, we kind of all had one or two cards we didn't completely agree on, but these are the cards that we felt were individually the strongest they can be. So keep that in mind. Some of these might not be played in every single fire deck. We're talking about the cards that are going to be, once they're on that board and you have to face them down, or after they have their enter effect, you're probably going to be having a tough time to deal with them. So let's get right into it, and starting with Phoebe. No spoiler here. There was kind of the thumbnail to give it away. Also one of my favorite cards. And again, I could not be any more wrong about this card. As we think about fire and what that identity is, and that's another criteria playing into the element strength, we want to burn stuff, we want to ping it for damage, or we just want to have a big beefy dude. And these two are really playing into the key element themes, or at least these first two cards. So Vivi might not be that impressive for a body, but it's going to come into play. It's going to kill something more often than not. Yes, the argument could be made that, late game, it's only going to be hitting for, say, 4,000 damage, but there's a good 80% of the time where it's going to be good. And when you get to that mid to late game, maybe their opponent's stuck playing like an Al Cid. They have a couple cards in hand. They're trying to come back. You can VV kill something, and you're always threatening having that forward on the field. Now, Fire Aga isn't going to be the most relevant thing all the time, but it does come in handy. Always having an S on a card is a huge upside, even if it is not going to be, relevant in every single matchup. I think 7,000 damage is still a great spot to be, especially if you're going to be seeing more Golbez decks, which, who knows, it's always kind of a theme in the back of your mind you have to keep aware of, but 7,000 damage is a lot. It can really help bring you back from some situations as well. Another card that just demands respect, it's going to come down, it's going to start doing some damage, is Embers. Now, again, this does have the drawback of, hey, you have to play fire crystal points to put it into the field. I get it, but that's not really that big of a drawback. It's a 5 cost, 9,000 power forward, so it's fine on that aspect. And again, let's play into those strengths of fire. Whenever it attacks, it deals 5,000 damage. That's good enough to kill some of the smaller stuff, especially with all the Chocobo decks that are going on right now. Maybe if they have Fat Chocobo, obviously they can buff out of that range, but he's going to be killing the more relevant ones that you care about just by attacking. So it's going to be somewhere between helping you play that ping damage, and maybe you have to kind of 2 for 1 or half for 1.5 for 1, I guess you could say, because he's in the field, you get the effect. But it's so easy to play other cards like your other mages, backups, or Vivi again to just finish something off. And then that last effect where it says, look, you're going to be playing the plus 1,000 power backup. So let's just say it's a 10k. That's going to trade on its own with whatever in the world your opponent is playing. Not only that, you're going to get the 9,000 damage trigger from him hitting the break zone. Now, again, there's going to be these kind of disclaimers like, oh, what if you're going against Heroic What if they have this? I understand it's always a consideration, but when we take Emperor Zandi and look at him for just the pure, raw, beefy power that he is, I mean, he's one awesome dude, let's be honest. He just brings the power and everything that fire wants. And you can kind of tell that we're keeping on this theme about very strong fire forwards, and Sabin is no joke either. This one is kind of one of those later additions, came in Opus 4, it plays in the Final Fantasy 6 theme. We've seen a lot of him in maybe Fire Ice or even some Mono Fire, but it's another card that just says, look, I'm fire, I want to be aggressive, and this guy really does do it all for what you want to be doing. It's nice that he has the option too to, when you play him, you get to protect one of your other forwards, but let's take that out of the equation. Whenever he attacks, he's going to target himself with the effect. He cannot be bested in combat. Beyond that, you can also buff him very easily by plus 2,000. Plus 2,000 is a huge swing. So this guy says, again, going to be 9,000 power, you're playing the plus 1,000 power backup. I'm potentially an 11k. I've already used my effect. You're not breaking me. No matter what you block with, I don't care. I'm taking it down with me. And then Rising Phoenix. Like, if you've played this card and you've got to resolve Rising Phoenix, it is a very strong effect. And it can really, again, with Fire Aga less so, but this especially, it can really help bring you back in a situation where you're blowing up all of your opponent's forwards. And not to be mistaken, it deals 8,000 damage. What Sabin can do is protect one of your other forwards with his on-attack trigger, buff himself with a plus 2,000 power, maybe you have the plus 1,000 power buff, a selfie, etc., and then you can use Rising Phoenix. Suddenly, you have these two attackers that are going to get for pushing through damage uncontested, and Sabin help clear the way. Yes, these are all legend forwards. I do realize that, but not every card that we're going to be selecting in this series is going to be a legend forward. We're of course going to try to do one backup and one summon as well, so keep that in mind. And talking about those backups, I think this one really needs no introduction, is Red Mage. Now this is the case where it's not going to do anything really when it comes into play. It's you put it on the field, you're using it later in the game. It doesn't do anything other than being a great 2-cost backup, which is fine, all things considered. Choose a forward, it cannot block. Cannot stress enough, when we think about fire, we think about all the removal that it has, and we think about the potential it has to kind of narrow down the forwards and make it favorable in your position. When we're adding these cards that we just want to play early anyways, and if our opponent's playing a slower deck, they might only have 1 or 2 forwards anyways, we can give them unfavorable blocks for the rest of the game. You know, coming out in Opus 1, it's very surprising to see, or perhaps not surprising once you use the effect, that this card has always been played. It's not going anywhere, and I'd be very surprised if it goes anywhere in Opus 5. So this, again, just becomes a staple in every single deck that can play fire. Worth checking out, and it's worth getting that effect in. So again, it might not be the strongest card by itself in terms of, you know, it doesn't enter the effect and do something like our forwards, but it is a backup that says you're going to be getting in a point of damage, and that absolutely deserves its spot in this list. And now this last one, so this is where we kind of got a little bit different opinions on what we think is kind of the best, either summon or the last strongest card. So the last card that we talk about in these videos is always going to be more of a kind of honorable mention, or it's going to be one that we were all split on. When I think about raw power and what a card can do, I immediately think of Bahamut. We've seen Raiden, and that's been a huge bonus for the lightning decks, which really didn't need it, but that's a conversation for another video. But Bahamut just really clears away. 10,000 damage is huge, and you get to remove those guys so they don't get the on-break effects. Yes, it costs a lot, but it is worth it. And then perhaps been a little bit more popular, and the card that we've seen a lot of people going for instead is the 4-cost Bahamut. Dealing 8,000 damage, as we mentioned in our other videos, is really kind of that sweet spot that you want to be hitting, and you still get that on-remove effect. So if you're looking for a cheaper effect that can just remove a forward in a pinch, this is probably going to be your go-to burn spell. But burning our opponents isn't the only thing that we want to be doing, or burning their forwards. We also have Belias. I think there's a lot of people who, especially in those Garnet summons deck, which are still so annoying to play against when they pull off the Belias, but it's a part of the card game. You get first strike, you get haste, you get to draw a card. It's an EX burst. So this card, again, is just so, it's dripping in value for what it can do. It's so good for being able to get you that little extra damage that you would need otherwise. So I mean, haste, 1,000 power, and drawing a card, I think a lot of people would be happy with just that in many situations, but that first strike is what really pushes it over the top. So guys, that's our cards for the Best of the Fire series. We're going to be doing one of these for each element. So let us know your thoughts. Do we pick the cards you would think? Is there some cards that we blatantly missed? Again, the biggest thing that we wanted to do is get these conversations started as we go to our regionals, as we think about Opus 5 that's around the corner, and all be better deck builders at the end of the day. So if you guys like this video, make sure to drop us a like. That really helps us out a ton. Comment down below. Did we make it? Were we completely off? Or was there some other cards deserved to be on the list or wasn't on the list? Let us know. And of course, subscribe for future Final Fantasy trading card game content. So on behalf of the Six Sages Gaming crew, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. Have a good one. This video made possible thanks to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to our honorary sages.